The lawyer slid the agreement across the table and told me to sign. He said it like this was cleanup. Like all I had to do was carry what my family had already decided was mine. My father leaned back and folded his hands. My mother kept her eyes on the polished wood. My sister Claire sat beside them in a cream blazer, chin high, like one more rescue plan had finally worked. No one looked ashamed. That was the first thing I noticed. The second was the silver pen waiting beside my name. Already uncapped. Already turned toward me. I did not touch it. I did not argue. I just opened my bag and placed a blue folder on the table. On top was a bank statement with one transfer highlighted in yellow. Under it was a federal case intake sheet with a number printed in black. I turned both pages so their lawyer could read them first. The room changed before anyone spoke. Claire stopped breathing through her smile. My mother finally looked up. Their lawyer straightened in his chair. 6 months earlier, I had reported them. They just did not know I had brought proof today yet. It was not the amount that froze the room. Not really. My parents had spent years treating money like a family weapon. Cut mine. Cover Claire. Then call it love. What changed the air was one line on that statement. One transfer. One name. One account that should never have touched that loan money if their story had been true. Their lawyer kept staring at the highlighted line. He had walked in ready to pressure me. Ready to turn me into the easy signature at the end of a hard family mess. But numbers do not bend for guilt. Paper does not care who cries first. My father still thought this was about obedience. My mother still thought silence could smooth it over. Claire still thought she could sit pretty and wait for someone else to absorb the fallout. They were all wrong. Because the bank statement was only the first page. Under it was the federal intake sheet. A case number. A date. And a path none of them had seen coming. If that number meant what they feared it meant, everything in that room was about to flip. Before I tell you what their lawyer read next, tell me where you are watching from. I want to know how far this story travels. Because what happened in that conference room looked like a family debt fight. It was not. It was a trap with my name on it. My name is Nora Bennett. I am 31 years old. I live in Lakewood, Colorado. I work as a payroll compliance analyst, and I am telling you this because silence almost made their fraud look legal. I am the younger daughter. In my family, that never meant protected. It meant available. Available money. Available time. Available patience. If something broke around Claire, everyone looked at me like I was the spare part. Claire is 4 years older than I am. She knows how to sound fragile without ever sounding weak. She cries at the right moment. She tilts the story just enough. By the time people catch the lie, she is already standing inside the sympathy. I am not built like that. I do not perform pain well. I do not rush to fill silence. I read documents to the bottom page. I notice dates, routing numbers, signatures, and who gets nervous when facts get read out loud. My parents spent years turning that difference into a family script. Claire was the dreamer. I was the practical one. Claire needed support. I needed perspective. Claire made mistakes. I was expected to understand them. That script sounds harmless until money shows up. Then it changes shape. My college fund became a temporary family loan that never came back. My first job meant I could cover emergencies. My promotion meant I was doing well enough to help. Every step forward I took became proof, in their minds, that I could carry one more burden. I stopped arguing years before that meeting. Not because they were right. Because arguing only gave them more language to use against me. Ungrateful. Cold. Difficult. Not like your sister. They loved labels because labels are cheaper than accountability. So when their lawyer placed that agreement in front of me, he thought he was meeting the quiet daughter. The reasonable one. The one who would sign first and process the damage later. He was not. He was meeting the daughter who had spent 6 months building a file. They made one mistake. They thought I only knew how to absorb damage. They forgot I audit what people try to hide. I had been doing that for years. The meeting was in a small law office in Centennial, about 30 minutes from my apartment if traffic behaved. Glass walls. Dark wood table. Cold air that felt too clean for a family lie this old. Their lawyer wore a navy suit and kept rolling a silver fountain pen between his fingers. He had the kind of calm people borrow when they think the room already belongs to them. Every few seconds he straightened the agreement and nudged it closer to me, as if paper could wear me down before he even spoke. Claire sat across from me in a cream blazer that still had the fold lines from new packaging. She always bought confidence right before a collapse. My mother had both hands wrapped around a paper coffee cup she was not drinking. My father looked irritated, not nervous. That told me something important. He still believed this was a pressure meeting, not a discovery meeting. 2 years earlier, Claire had opened a home decor boutique in Littleton. Candles, imported vases, seasonal displays, soft music, soft lighting, hard numbers. The first 6 months looked pretty online. The next 6 bled cash. She blamed rent, weather, shipping delays, careless staff, cheap customers, and one influencer who promised exposure instead of paying. By month 11, vendors were calling. By month 14, collections notices started landing. By month 16, my mother was calling me twice a week just to ask strange questions about my credit limit, my work bonus, and whether I still kept the same bank. I should have seen it then. Instead, the real alarm hit on a Tuesday morning when I checked my credit report before work. My score had dropped fast. Not a little. Enough to make my stomach tighten before I even saw why. There was a commercial loan for $100,000 attached to my name as personal guarantor. My social security number. My date of birth. My old mailing address. Everything was mine except the signature. I called the lender from my car before work. The woman sounded bored until she opened the file. Then her voice changed. She told me the funds had been dispersed. She told me the emergency contact on record was my mother. She told me supporting documents came from an IP address tied to a residential account. My parents' house. That night I drove there with pages and heat in my throat. I wanted answers. Instead, my mother asked why I was making a scene. My father said Claire was under stress. Claire cried and said I was trying to ruin her life over paperwork. Over paperwork. That was the moment everything in me went still. People only call it paperwork when they need the victim to feel unreasonable. The first detail that told me this was not a mistake sat in a field most people never read. Emergency contact. My mother's number was listed there. Not mine. Not Claire's store. Not some office line. Her personal cell phone. That one line changed everything. A stranger could not have guessed that number. A careless clerk could not have invented it. Someone who knew my family had built that loan file. Someone who knew exactly whose identity would get approved fastest and questioned last. I called the lender again the next morning from the parking lot at work. This time I asked better questions. I asked when the application was submitted. I asked what email address was used. I asked whether the guarantor packet included identification. I asked who answered the verification call. The woman on the phone paused more than once. I could hear her clicking through notes. Then she read one sentence that made my hands lock around the steering wheel. Verification completed by family representative. Family representative. Not borrower. Not guarantor. Family representative. I asked her to repeat it. She did. Then she added that the representative confirmed personal details tied to my credit history and prior addresses. She could not give me every internal note without a formal dispute, but she gave me enough. Enough to stop reacting. Enough to start building. That morning I filed a fraud alert. By lunch I froze my credit. By evening I had requested copies of every document tied to the loan. I printed account records, call logs, and address history. I pulled samples of my signature from tax forms, payroll documents, and lease renewals. Then I did one thing my family never expected. I went quiet. Not weak quiet. Not shocked quiet. Working quiet. I stopped arguing at dinner. I stopped answering Claire's crying messages. I stopped letting my mother drag me into circles about loyalty, stress, and how families help each other. I let them think guilt was landing. I let them think I was softening. I was not. I was documenting. Within 10 days, I had enough inconsistencies to know their story would not survive review. Dates did not line up. The application used an old address I had not touched in 3 years. The income figures were copied from my last promotion cycle. Even the signature leaned wrong. Too slow. Too careful. Like someone trying to imitate control instead of habit. That was my first payoff. Not revenge. Clarity. They had not borrowed against my trust. They had borrowed against my identity. And once I saw that clearly, fear stopped running the situation. Procedure did. Their lawyer cleared his throat and tapped the agreement with one finger. He spoke to me like we were the only two adults in the room. Ms. Bennett, this does not need to become bigger than it already is. Your name is on the guarantee. The lender expects payment. If you cooperate today, we can discuss terms that protect everyone involved. Protect everyone. That was the word he chose. I looked at the paper, then at the silver pen beside it. I did not reach for either one. If it is that simple, read it. He gave me a polite smile. Controlled. The kind people use when they think delay is another form of surrender. You already received a copy, he said. We are not here to perform the packet. We are here to resolve the balance. Read it. My father let out a breath through his nose. My mother shifted in her chair. Claire crossed one leg over the other and looked at the glass wall instead of me. Nora, my father said, stop doing this. Nobody is trying to hurt you. Claire needed help. Things got messy. Now we are fixing it. I kept my eyes on the lawyer. Read the guarantee section out loud. He hesitated for the first time. Then he lifted the agreement and began. His voice was steady. He read the borrower name, the business name, the amount, the repayment language, the personal guarantee clause. Then he reached the signature page. I stopped him. Please continue, I said. Include the identification record used for execution. He looked down at the packet, then back at me. That is not necessary. It is if you are asking me to accept the signature. Claire leaned forward. Her voice came out sharp. This is insane. You know what happened. The store was collapsing. Mom and Dad were trying to stop everything from falling apart. You always act like you live outside this family. I turned to her for the first time. No. I act like my name belongs to me. My mother flinched, but Claire only tightened her jaw. Their lawyer tried again. His tone was softer now. Whether you approve of how the loan was arranged is separate from whether the lender relied on your information in good faith. Refusing to address the debt may expose you to further liability. I leaned back in my chair. Then let us be precise. I opened the blue folder and removed a second copy of the loan packet. Mine was tabbed, highlighted, numbered. Show me where the photo ID is attached. He turned pages. Slow now. There is a verification note, he said. That is not what I asked. My father cut in. Enough. You are embarrassing yourself. I ignored him. Show me the ID used to confirm my identity. The lawyer did not answer immediately. So I asked the next question. Who completed the verification call? He looked at the notes again. A family representative, he said. I let the phrase hang. My mother stared at the table. Claire looked at her, then away. My father sat up straighter. I repeated the words. A family representative. The lawyer nodded once. Yes. I slid the highlighted bank statement toward him. Just enough to place the yellow line under his hand. Then read that too. His eyes dropped to the statement. The room went still again. He read the incoming loan disbursement. Then the transfer made 47 minutes later. Transfer to Claire Bennett. Claire moved first. Just a small shift backward. My father spoke too quickly. That does not prove anything. She moved funds to keep the business operating. I placed 2 more pages on the table. Then read the account summary. Out loud. The lawyer's face changed before his words did. He scanned the charges. Vehicle payment. Apartment deposit. Boutique furniture shipped to a residential address. Claire said my name like a warning. I did not look at her. If this was simple, I said, why did nobody want it read from the start? My father recovered first. Not because he understood the room. Because he could not survive inside. Silence for long. You are twisting this, he said. Claire moved money where it needed to go. You have never run a business. You do not know what pressure looks like. Claire stepped in right behind him. That is right. You sit behind rules all day. Real life is messy. Vendors do not wait. Rent does not wait. Employees do not wait. This is exactly what I feared, she said. Your sister was drowning and all you can see is a line on a statement. There it was. Not fraud. Not my name. Not the false signature. A line. That is how people like them survive. They do not deny the damage. They reduce it. Then they ask why you are so cold about something so small. I did not answer my mother. I looked at the lawyer. Please keep reading. He stayed still. My father leaned forward and flattened both hands on the table. Nora, enough. We brought you here to fix this like an adult. No, I said. You brought me here because you thought shame would work faster than evidence. Claire laughed once, but it sounded thin. You really think you are the victim, she said. Mom and Dad drained savings for me. They covered rent. They covered vendors. They covered payroll. You act like we did this for fun. I slid another page across the table. Then explain this one. The lawyer looked down. Another transfer. Smaller this time. $9,600. Same destination account. Same week. The payment memo field read apartment staging. That was temporary, she said. Claire had clients coming through. She needed the place to look right. Sometimes business expenses are not labeled perfectly. Sometimes. Not perfectly. People under pressure always reach for soft words. Sometimes. Probably. Almost. Facts never do. Apartment staging is not store rent, I said. It is not payroll. It is not inventory. It is personal. My father cut in. Enough with categories. Money moved where it needed to move. Families make adjustments when plans fall apart. That was the first layer. Not legality. Loyalty. Not accountability. Adjustment. Not identity theft. Family. They needed the room to become emotional before it became factual. That was always their strongest terrain. My mother could make guilt sound holy. Claire could make recklessness sound fragile. My father could turn any refusal into disrespect in under a minute. For most of my life, that combination worked. It did not work on paper. I looked at Claire. Did you tell them you used my identity? Her eyes locked on mine. I told them we had no choice. That was not the question. She swallowed. I told them I would fix it before it touched you. My father struck the table with his palm. Hard enough to imitate control. She said she would fix it, he said. We believed her. That is what parents do. You protected one child by exposing another. There was no point staying inside that moral theater. If I stayed there, they would drag us in circles for another hour. So I changed the ground. I turned back to the lawyer. You said the lender relied on the file in good faith. I agree. Which is why I want the execution process read out. He adjusted in his chair. This is not a court proceeding. No, I said. But you're asking me to accept liability. So let us be careful. What exactly do you want read? Submission date. Verification. Identity confirmation. Disbursement. Each line. He did not want to. But refusing would look worse than continuing. So he read. Application submitted on March 11th at 8:14 p.m. Verification completed on March 12th at 9:26 a.m. Guarantor details confirmed. Funds released on March 13th at 1:02 p.m. Where was I on March 12th at 9:26 a.m.? I am not in a position to know that. I answered anyway. At work. In a payroll audit. Badge in at 8:01 a.m. Badge out at 5:43 p.m. Camera coverage. Time-stamped login. I was not on the phone with your lender. Then I placed another page in front of him. My building access report. Read the time on the verification note again. He read it slower this time. 9:26 a.m. Now read the note. He looked at it too long before speaking. Guarantor details confirmed by family representative authorized to assist. Authorized to assist. I repeated the phrase and let it sit there. Who authorized that? I asked again. Who authorized someone else to confirm my identity on a personal guarantee? Claire opened her mouth and closed it. My father spoke instead. If there was a procedural issue, then we clean up the procedure. You do not burn your family down over process. That was the second layer. Procedural control. Shrink. The fraud. Rename the risk. Move past the record. Then let us clean up the procedure, I said. I set down a copy of the fraud complaint I filed with the lender. Dated 6 months earlier. Signed by me. Received and acknowledged. The lawyer read the header without sound. His shoulders changed before his face did. My mother saw the page and went pale. What is that? The first formal notice, I said. The one you hoped would never move past internal review. Claire stared at me. You reported this 6 months ago. Without telling us. Why would I warn people who used my name? That silence was different. Not family silence. Document silence. Now there was a timeline outside their version. A record that did not care who raised me, who cried first, or who claimed good intentions. The lawyer cleared his throat. If a fraud dispute was already opened, the lender may have an investigative file. May have. I placed down the certified mail receipt. Then the lender acknowledgement. Then the identity theft affidavit I had notarized. Not may, I said. Does. No one touched the papers. They could not drag this back into family language now. For once, nobody in that room tried to interrupt me. There were dates. There were notices. There was proof that I had not stayed passive while they built a debt around my name. This does not change what you owe morally, he said. We raised you. We carried you. And now, when your sister needs one hard thing from you, this is who you become. His voice was lower now. Colder. He was trying to brand me one last time before the room left him behind. Ungrateful. Disloyal. Cruel. Same weapons. Cleaner packaging. I folded both hands over the folder. No. This is who I became after I read everything. Claire turned to the lawyer. Say something. He did not. My mother tried next. There has to be a way to settle this privately. There was, I said. Before my name was signed without me. My mother looked down. Claire stopped trying to look offended and started looking afraid. Real fear this time. Structural fear. The kind that shows up when consequences stop sounding emotional and start sounding permanent. The conference room felt smaller now. Same glass walls. Same cold air. Same silver pen beside the untouched agreement. But the power had shifted. At the start, they thought the structure in that room belonged to them. Their lawyer. Their timeline. Their pressure. Their version. Not anymore. The lawyer sat back and stared at the stack in front of him. My father mistook that pause for weakness. So he leaned forward and said the sentence that opened the final door. If you have anything else, put it on the table right now. I did. I placed the second folder in front of their lawyer and turned it so he would open it first. It was thicker. Federal blue. And colder than anything else in the room. Their lawyer looked at the folder, then opened it with 2 fingers. The first page was plain. Federal Intake Summary. Reporting Party. Nora Bennett. Date received. Evidence log. He read the header once in silence. My mother whispered my name like she had just learned I could become dangerous. Claire stared at the page without blinking. My father still tried to sit upright inside the moment, but I could see it. He did not recognize the room anymore. Their lawyer turned to the next page. Identity theft affidavit. Signature comparison request. Credit dispute record. Lender correspondence. IP trace request tied to residential submission activity. Then he reached the appendix. Supporting evidence received and logged. Read it, I said. His jaw tightened. Then he started. Supporting evidence included account statements, loan packet copies, employer badge records, signature samples, lender call notes, and archived text messages from individuals connected to the reporting party. That phrase landed hard. It meant names. It meant proximity. It meant this was no longer a private family mess. Claire found her voice first. You took this to the FBI. I looked at her. No. I took identity theft to the people who investigate identity theft. My mother pressed one hand to her chest. Nora, we were trying to save your sister's business. You were trying to save Claire from consequences, I said. You just used my name to do it. My father leaned forward hard enough to rattle his cup. We are your family. That was his last shield. Not truth. Not facts. Just blood. I held a stare. Family is not authorization. Their lawyer turned another page. His calm was gone now. Recalculated. This document says federal authorities requested preservation of lender records pending review, he said. Yes. He flipped again. It also says interviews were conducted with parties tied to the application pathway. My mother looked up too fast. Interviews. One word. One mistake. Their lawyer looked at her. Then at the page. Mrs. Bennett, were you interviewed regarding this matter? She froze. Claire did too. My father tried to cut in, but the timing was gone. My mother opened her mouth and made the worst choice she could have made. I only told them what Claire said happened. Silence. Their lawyer placed the page flat on the table. So you did speak to investigators, he said. My father snapped at him to stop making it sound criminal. The lawyer did not even look at him. Mr. Bennett, at this point I need to be precise. Precise. That was the word that ended them. He gathered the agreement, but not toward me. Toward himself. Away from the center of the table. Given what is now in front of me, he said, I cannot continue presenting this as a simple repayment dispute. There are indicators of contested execution, identity misuse, and an active investigative trail. I will not advise Miss Bennett to sign anything today. Claire pushed back from the table. So that is it. You are backing out. He finally looked at her. I am refusing to step further into a matter that may carry criminal exposure. My mother started crying then. Not because she was sorry. Because fear had finally reached her. My father tried one last time to seize the room. You did this, he said to me. You dragged your own family into this. I shook my head. No. You did that when you signed my name. He opened his mouth, but I did not let him retake the floor. That is not your version. That is what he just read. I nodded toward the file. Claire looked smaller now. No tears on cue. No wounded tone. Just a woman staring at paperwork that had stopped bending for her. The lawyer stood. He said his office would be withdrawing from any collection effort involving me effective immediately. Any further contact, he said, should go through documented channels only. The room stayed frozen after he left. No one asked me to sign. No one asked me to help. No one called me selfish. For 2 years, they had painted me as cold because I would not absorb damage quietly. It took less than 15 minutes in that conference room for the paint to crack. The lender released me from the demand soon after. The debt did not disappear. It just went back where it belonged. Claire. My parents. Their choices. By then, their options had narrowed. Sell assets. Negotiate repayment. Keep pretending and watch the file move further. I stood, took my copy of the blue folder, and left the agreement where they had placed it. Untouched. That was the part one remember most. Not their faces. Not my mother's tears. Not my father's anger. The pen. Still uncapped. Still waiting. And finally useless. I did not go back to my parents' house after that meeting. I did not call to explain. I did not send one long message trying to make them understand what they had done. There was nothing left to explain. They understood. That was why they had tried to rush me into signing before the room changed shape. By the next week, their lawyer's office had formally withdrawn from any demand against me. The lender stopped treating me like the easy target at the end of the chain and turned back toward the people who built the fraud in the first place. Claire shut down the boutique within 2 months. The inventory was liquidated. The lease was broken early. My parents listed a rental property they had sworn they would keep forever. Then they quietly sold my grandmother's lake cabin too. That was the practical aftermath. Not prison. Not some dramatic public collapse. Something colder. Paperwork. Forced sales. Negotiations. Repayment schedules. New attorneys. And the kind of silence that only shows up when manipulation stops working. They still tried, at first. My mother left voicemails saying families should not destroy each other over money. My father sent one email calling me extreme, legalistic, and impossible to reason with. Claire sent a message just 3 lines long. I thought you would never take it this far. That line stayed with me. Not because it hurt. Because it exposed everything. She did not say I was wrong. She did not say she had not used my identity. She did not say the documents were false. She said she thought I would never take it that far. That was the whole family pattern in one sentence. They never built their lives on what was right. They built them on what they thought I would tolerate. That ended in Centennial, in a cold conference room, with an uncapped silver pen and a blue federal file sitting between us like a door that only opened one way. After that, I changed everything. I locked down my credit permanently. I changed banks. I moved my savings. I updated every password, every recovery email, every security question they could have guessed from knowing me too long. I stopped discussing income with relatives. I stopped translating disrespect into stress. I stopped calling fraud a misunderstanding just because it came from people who shared my last name. That was the real payoff. Not watching them panic. Not watching their lawyer step back. Not even hearing the room go quiet. The real payoff was that I never had to live as available again. Some daughters are not raised as daughters. They are raised as backup plans. Backup money. Backup labor. Backup blame. The useful child. The stable one. The one who can absorb one more hit because she always has before. Listen carefully. If a family only loves your sacrifice, they do not love you. They love access. And once you understand that, your life gets simpler. Not easier. Simpler. You stop arguing with people who need confusion. You stop begging people to admit what the documents already proved. You stop offering softness to people who used your name like spare inventory. You draw the line. Then you keep it there. That is the lesson. Truth does not get harsher when documented. It just stops being deniable. Boundaries are not cruelty. Documentation is not betrayal. And silence is only noble when it protects peace, not when it protects theft. If someone keeps asking you to trust their version, stop listening. Ask to read it. Some people only call it family when they need your name. What boundary did someone cross before you finally saw them clearly for the first time? Comment Reddit if you would have done the same.